In the dense heart of Central America, beneath a green canopy that has long concealed the echoes of forgotten civilizations, lie the remnants of a people who once reached heights of brilliance that still awe modern scholars and explorers. The Maya, whose story spans centuries, were a civilization that crafted their world with an elegance and precision that defies the expectations often imposed on ancient societies. They were astronomers who measured the heavens with a meticulous eye, mathematicians who invented the concept of zero independently of any old-world influence, architects who raised pyramids that seemed to touch the sky, and artists whose intricate carvings and murals expressed both the sacred and the personal, the cosmic and the immediate. Yet for all of their brilliance, the Maya would experience a decline so profound that it would silence the stone cities that had been their stage, leaving behind only the quiet testimony of temples, plazas, and towering pyramids gradually reclaimed by the jungle. To understand the weight of this story, one must first step into the world as the Maya themselves lived it, a world alive with color, ritual, and the unyielding pulse of time. Imagine a city like Tikal at its zenith, the sun rising over a horizon broken by pyramids whose heights rivaled mountains. From a distance, one would see the plazas filled with the activity of thousands of people, merchants, farmers, artisans, and priests, all moving in a rhythm that was at once chaotic and harmoniously ordered. The scent of incense, the bright pigments of murals, the sound of chanting and ritual instruments, and the constant activity of daily life all combine to create an urban vitality that is hard to grasp from the silent stones left behind. Every building, every carefully carved stela was both functional and symbolic. The Maya did not merely construct, they narrated. Each monument was a story, a record of power, devotion, triumph, and the relentless interplay between human aspiration and the divine order they perceived around them. At the center of this world stood the king, the Kuhul Ajau, whose role transcended governance. He was the linchpin between the mortal and the divine, the vessel through which the cosmos was maintained. Through rituals that demanded personal sacrifice, often in the form of bloodletting, he sought to ensure the life-giving cycles continued, that the sun would rise, that rain would fall, and that the sacred maize, the lifeblood of the civilization, would flourish. To the Maya, maize was not merely sustenance, it was identity itself. The gods had given them corn, and in return, they were entrusted with its care and cultivation. The well-being of a city was inseparable from the maize fields surrounding it, and every ceremony, every act of devotion, every architectural triumph was in service of that cosmic balance. Yet, even at the peak of their civilization, there were threads of fragility woven into the grandeur of their achievements. The cities, though magnificent, were dependent on an environment that was both bountiful and merciless. The tropical rainforest, with its thin, easily depleted soils, could support dense populations only through careful management and ingenuity. The Maya's agricultural systems were astonishingly sophisticated, combining terraces, raised fields, and intricate water management systems to extract life from the land. But the very success of these innovations also planted the seeds of vulnerability. The demands of an expanding population, coupled with the relentless ambition of kings seeking to outshine one another through monumental architecture, began to strain the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental sustainability. In the decades leading up to the collapse, the landscape around southern cities like Tikal and Copan began to shift. The forests that once cushioned the cities, providing wood for construction and fuel for lime plaster, shrank under the relentless pressure of urban and ceremonial growth. Hillsides were terraced to exhaustion, rivers and reservoirs strained to meet the needs of tens of thousands of inhabitants, and every tree felled, every stone quarried, subtly altered the natural rhythms of the land. What had once been a partnership between people and nature, a relationship grounded in observation, respect, and ritual, was becoming a precarious negotiation with forces that could no longer be fully controlled. At the same time, the social and political fabric of the Maya world was showing signs of tension. The civilization was not a single unified empire, but a constellation of city-states, each fiercely independent, each governed by rulers whose authority was intertwined with ritual legitimacy and military prowess. Alliances shifted, rivalries intensified, and the intricacies of intercity diplomacy often gave way to violence. Warfare had always been a structured and symbolic component of Maya life, designed to capture elite prisoners rather than annihilate populations. But as the stakes rose and resources became scarce, these rituals of controlled conflict began to spiral into increasingly violent confrontations, consuming the land and the people who lived upon it. The once stable equilibrium between political ambition, ritual, and survival began to fray. The combination of environmental stress, social competition, and religious expectation created a feedback loop that would eventually tip the civilization into crisis. As droughts took hold, reservoirs dried, maize crops failed, and the predictable cadence of the seasons faltered, the people's faith in their leaders' sacred abilities was shaken. Each failed ritual, each empty reservoir, each withered field became a visible reminder that the delicate covenant between humans and the divine was faltering. Fear and desperation crept into the cities, reflected in hastily constructed fortifications, the hurried abandonment of public works, and the increasingly grim depictions of warfare and sacrifice in the murals that adorned temples. The Maya were not blind to their circumstances. They knew they were confronting forces beyond the reach of human power, yet their cultural framework demanded they respond within the familiar rituals, within the structures of kingship, even as those structures strained under the weight of circumstance. Amid this unfolding crisis, the archaeological record captures moments of profound human drama. Palaces left unfinished, stelae abruptly abandoned, and plazas deserted tell a story of people making impossible choices. Families who had lived for generations in the shadow of monumental stone temples faced a stark reality. The land that had sustained them was no longer reliable. The kings who had promised stability could no longer deliver, and the social systems that had defined their identity were failing. In response, communities gradually disbanded, scattering into smaller, more sustainable settlements, seeking survival in ways that would preserve their culture while abandoning the grandeur of their urban centers. It was a migration not born of conquest or defeat by external forces, but a deeply human strategy, an adaptation to circumstances that had become unbearable. The silent cities were not tombs of a vanished people. They were the remnants of a civilization making the painful choice to survive by retreating, by rethinking their relationship with the land and each other. In considering the Maya collapse, it is tempting to seek a single dramatic explanation: a drought, a war, a plague, but the reality is more intricate and compelling. The story is one of interconnected forces, of successes and vulnerabilities entwined over centuries. It is a narrative that speaks not only to the brilliance of human ingenuity, but also to the fragility of human systems when confronted with environmental limits and social pressures. It is a story imbued with both tragedy and hope, for while the cities of the southern lowlands fell silent, the Maya people endured. Their culture persisted in the northern cities of the Yucatan, in the smaller villages scattered across the highlands, and in the linguistic, artistic, and ritual practices that survive even today. Their resilience reminds us that collapse does not equal extinction, that adaptation is possible, and that the legacy of a people cannot be measured solely by the monuments they leave behind. The Maya collapse is a mirror for us across the centuries, reflecting the delicate interplay between human ambition and environmental reality. It challenges modern societies to consider how prosperity, population growth, resource exploitation, and climate change intersect, and what happens when the balance is lost. It also celebrates the enduring capacity of humans to adapt, to preserve culture, and to survive against seemingly insurmountable odds. In the silent cities, under the relentless growth of the jungle, we can almost hear the echoes of the past, the chanting of priests, the laughter of children, the solemn footsteps of kings on stone terraces, all intertwined with the wind through the trees. This is the sound of history speaking to us, urging reflection and inspiring awe. Beyond the stones, the pyramids, and the murals, the Maya were observers of the cosmos with a sophistication that rivals anything in human history. Their understanding of time, mathematics, and celestial mechanics was not abstract. It was intimately tied to survival, ritual, and identity. The movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars were not merely distant phenomena. They were signals, guides, and omens embedded in the rhythm of everyday life. From the precise alignment of their pyramids to the design of their observatories perched atop the tallest structures, the Maya interpreted the heavens as a living, breathing blueprint for human action. Priests meticulously recorded solar and lunar eclipses, tracked Venus in its complex cycle, and predicted celestial events that could dictate agricultural and military decisions. They mapped the universe with a precision that would not be matched in Europe for centuries, yet their discoveries were not detached from the human experience. They were an extension of it, woven into the texture of societal and spiritual life. Mathematics, too, was elevated beyond the practical, becoming a sacred instrument in their quest to harmonize with the cosmos. Their vigesimal system, based on 20 rather than 10, allowed them to perform calculations of staggering complexity. The concept of zero, a profound intellectual leap that many ancient civilizations never achieved, enabled them to measure cycles of time with unparalleled accuracy. These tools were not idle curiosities. They were essential instruments in the orchestration of rituals, the timing of agricultural work, and the administration of a sprawling civilization. Numbers became not only functional symbols but also vessels of cosmic meaning. Each calculation connected them to the divine order, reinforcing the belief that the rhythm of the universe could be understood, anticipated, and to some degree guided through human intervention. The written language of the Maya, often dismissed for decades as mere symbolic decoration, was a further testament to their intellectual and artistic genius. The glyphs carved into stelae, temples, and palace walls were not ornamental. They were history, literature, and law etched into stone with the precision of both artists and scholars. Every glyph had the capacity to convey complex phonetic, semantic, and symbolic information. Histories of kings and queens, their triumphs and failures, the ebb and flow of city-state alliances, and the details of ritual life were encoded in these symbols. For centuries, the world misjudged the Maya script, seeing only pictures without understanding the voices of the people hidden within. Once deciphered, however, it revealed a civilization conscious of its own narrative, capable of chronicling its achievements and its anxieties with astonishing clarity. The stone was not silent. It spoke volumes about the ingenuity, ambition, and resilience of a people who perceived their existence as part of a vast, interconnected universe. In daily life, the Maya blended the mundane and the sacred seamlessly. Children learned the rhythms of planting, harvesting, and observing the sky from a young age, internalizing lessons that would guide their communities for generations. Markets thrived in the city centers, with merchants negotiating over obsidian tools, jade ornaments, woven textiles, and cacao, the precious drink of the elite. Artisans poured skill and devotion into creating ceramics, carved stone objects, and intricate featherwork, each piece carrying cultural meaning beyond its practical use. The Maya cultivated a society where every act, from a prayer whispered over a seedling to the grand dedication of a pyramid, was part of a continuum connecting the living, the dead, and the divine. There was an intimate interdependence between ritual, economy, and environmental stewardship, a harmony that, when maintained, produced unparalleled prosperity and cultural richness. Yet beneath this brilliance, the same innovations that allowed the Maya to thrive also deepened their vulnerability. The dependence on intensive maize agriculture in combination with densely populated cities created a system exquisitely attuned to stability but painfully sensitive to disruption. When rainfall patterns shifted, when soils eroded, or when warfare diverted labor from the fields, the delicate equilibrium could falter with catastrophic consequences. Archaeological evidence paints a picture of cities under strain, terraces overused and eroding, reservoirs showing signs of sedimentation, and storage facilities overextended to feed populations that could no longer be sustained reliably by the land. Every triumph of engineering and agriculture was shadowed by the knowledge that nature, while generous, could be unforgiving, and that the very systems designed to protect life could fail if the balance was broken. Political complexity, too, played a role in both the civilization's flourishing and its eventual fragility. The Maya world was a network of interdependent but fiercely independent city-states, each ruled by dynastic families whose authority was justified through divine sanction. The relationships among these cities were intricate, composed of alliances cemented by marriage, trade agreements, religious obligations, and military engagements. Yet competition was a constant undercurrent. Rivalries between neighboring city-states occasionally erupted into full-scale conflict, drawing entire regions into cycles of warfare that consumed resources, disrupted agriculture, and undermined the legitimacy of rulers whose power was as much spiritual as it was political. When drought and environmental stress compounded these tensions, the social and political fabric of the Maya world began to fray, revealing the interconnectedness of ecological, economic, and cultural forces in determining the fate of civilization. As the southern cities faced mounting crises, the artistic record reveals the human response to fear and uncertainty. Murals depict warriors in jaguar pelts and feathered headdresses engaged in combat, prisoners bound and prepared for ritual sacrifice, and kings performing increasingly desperate ceremonies to appeal to the gods. Stone stelae that once commemorated victories and prosperity suddenly show gaps in chronology, monuments left unfinished, and inscriptions abruptly halting. These are not merely signs of decline. They are the fingerprints of a society wrestling with existential threats, attempting to maintain cohesion and meaning in the face of forces they could not control. The silence that descends over the stelae, the abandonment of ceremonial projects, and the half-finished construction of temples communicate the emotional and psychological toll of a civilization confronting its own limits. They speak to a human reality of hope and desperation intertwined, of resilience confronted by impossibility. Amid this period of stress, environmental degradation accelerated the crisis. Extensive deforestation for construction, fuel, and agriculture altered rainfall patterns, depleted soils, and exposed the landscape to erosion. The very grandeur of the pyramids, temples, and palaces that symbolized human achievement required the consumption of vast natural resources, and as each generation sought to outdo the last, the pressure on the land grew. By the time catastrophic droughts arrived in the 8th and 9th centuries, the Maya of the southern lowlands were already on a precarious knife edge, their sophisticated systems strained to the point of collapse. Reservoirs that once sustained tens of thousands of people dried, maize failed repeatedly, and famine loomed across the cities. The confluence of environmental, political, and social pressures created a perfect storm, demonstrating the fragile interdependence of human society and the natural world, a lesson with resonance that extends far beyond the jungles of Central America. Yet even in the face of such upheaval, the Maya response reflects both ingenuity and humanity. Families and communities did not simply vanish. They migrated, reorganized, and adapted. They sought smaller, more sustainable settlements, retaining the core of their culture, their language, and their rituals, while leaving behind the unsustainable urban centers. The exodus from the southern cities was not chaos. It was strategy, a collective choice to preserve life and cultural continuity over monumental display. The jungle gradually reclaimed the abandoned cities, growing over plazas, cracking stone steps, and reclaiming pyramids with roots and vines. To the casual observer, these cities appeared lost, silent, and mysterious. Yet for the descendants of the Maya, the legacy endured. Language, ritual, weaving, and agricultural knowledge persisted, ensuring that culture survived not through stone alone, but through living communities resilient in the face of adversity. As the southern Maya cities flourished, life within their walls was a tapestry of ritual, labor, and community woven together with precision and meaning. Streets echoed with the clatter of daily commerce, the rhythmic beat of dancers' feet, and the chants of priests invoking the gods to bless fields and families alike. Life was measured not only in years, but in cycles. The rotation of the sun, the phases of the moon, the predictable rise and fall of the rainy seasons. Every individual, from the lowest artisan to the exalted king, was attuned to these rhythms, bound by an understanding that the survival of the city depended as much on devotion and discipline as it did on labor and leadership. The connection between the divine, the natural, and the human world was inseparable, a profound interdependence that gave life its structure and its meaning. At the heart of every city, the king, or the Holy Lord, was not merely a political figure, but a sacred mediator between the mortal world and the divine. The ruler's life was a constant performance of devotion, a relentless dedication to maintaining cosmic order. His blood, offered in carefully orchestrated rituals, was believed to nourish the gods and ensure the continuity of rain, fertility, and life itself. Each ceremony was a dramatic display of faith, blending symbolism, spectacle, and the visceral intensity of human sacrifice. The public act of bloodletting, whether through a tongue piercing or the offering of cuts to the arm or earlobes, was both literal and symbolic, a negotiation with the universe, a transaction with powers beyond comprehension. For the populace, these acts were tangible evidence that the sacred machinery of the cosmos was in the hands of someone devoted, someone willing to sacrifice for the greater good. But devotion alone could not insulate the Maya from the pressures building around them. In the late 8th century, subtle changes began to appear. Monumental construction projects were left unfinished, stone blocks abandoned mid-carve, and plazas half-paved. These signs, silent yet eloquent, spoke of a society under duress. The disappearance of inscriptions on stelae, once meticulous records of kings' achievements, suggested a fracture in confidence, a loss of faith in both rulers and ritual. At the same time, warfare between city-states escalated beyond ritualized capture and symbolic victories. The early structured conflicts, ceremonial, controlled, and bounded, had begun to spiral. Masked armies clashed with brutal intensity. Entire regions were drawn into cycles of retaliatory violence, and ordinary citizens increasingly found themselves caught in the crossfire. The orderly universe the Maya had cultivated through ritual, observation, and governance now felt precarious, like a spinning wheel threatening to tip. Environmental pressures compounded these social stresses. The southern lowlands, once fertile and reliable, began showing signs of strain. Soil erosion accelerated as the forest was cleared for cultivation and construction. Deforestation for the lime plaster that coated pyramids, for fuel to sustain growing urban populations, and for agriculture disrupted rainfall patterns and depleted essential resources. Streams that once fed communal reservoirs slowed to trickles, and the predictable rhythm of seasonal rains faltered. By the mid-8th century, scholars and scientists examining the geological record have uncovered evidence of prolonged droughts, multi-decade dry spells that would have imperiled the maize fields, the very foundation of Maya survival. Crop failure was not merely a challenge to daily sustenance. It was a crisis of faith, threatening the cosmic contract between the gods and the people, mediated by the king's ritual acts. When the rain failed, so too did the promise of divine protection. In this crucible of environmental, social, and political pressure, the southern Maya cities began to unravel. Evidence from excavation reveals abandoned terraces, collapsed palaces, and hastily erected fortifications, signaling a population under siege by both nature and human ambition. Defensive walls that had never been necessary were thrown up in haste. Plazas were eerily empty, their ceremonial significance suspended as fear and scarcity dominated everyday life. Mass graves, often with evidence of violent deaths, speak to the breakdown of both social norms and protective governance. Communities once unified under ritual and tradition now face the stark choice between survival and loyalty to a system that could no longer deliver life-sustaining resources. Yet, even as the southern cities declined, the resilience of the Maya people became evident. They did not vanish. Families abandoned the grand stone capitals, taking with them the seeds of culture, language, and tradition. They moved into smaller, more sustainable communities, often returning to the forest, adapting agricultural practices to local conditions, and ensuring that knowledge survived beyond the collapse of monumental civilization. This migration, though desperate and heart-wrenching, represents a form of ingenuity and endurance. The people prioritized survival over grandeur, continuity over legacy, demonstrating a capacity for adaptation that modern observers can scarcely overstate. In these smaller, dispersed settlements, the threads of Maya culture were preserved. Language, ritual, craft, and agricultural expertise endured, safeguarded through intimate, daily practice rather than public display. The Southern collapse, therefore, is not merely a story of loss, but also one of human agency, ingenuity, and the capacity to endure. The narrative challenges conventional notions of decline, emphasizing that civilizations are living systems capable of adaptation and survival, even when monumental achievements crumble. As the jungles reclaimed the abandoned cities, nature did not erase history, but rather covered it, allowing the living Maya culture to evolve independently. Stone pyramids, once the center of urban life, became quiet witnesses to a new way of existence. The silence of the cities contrasted with the persistence of knowledge and culture, highlighting the duality of human endeavor. Our creations may fall, but our ingenuity, identity, and traditions can survive across centuries. This period of transformation also underscores the interdependence of human society and the environment. The Mayas' advanced agricultural, architectural, and mathematical systems had allowed them to flourish, but those same systems created vulnerabilities that, when combined with climate change, led to near-catastrophic consequences. The Southern collapse serves as a profound lesson about resilience, sustainability, and the limits of human control over the natural world. It reveals that even the most sophisticated societies can be destabilized by the convergence of ecological, social, and political stresses, and yet it simultaneously shows the potential for human adaptation and cultural continuity in the face of profound adversity. While the great southern cities fell silent, a remarkable transformation was quietly taking shape in the northern reaches of the Maya world. In the drier, flatter landscapes of the Yucatan Peninsula, a new generation of cities arose, demonstrating a resilience and adaptability that would ensure the continuity of Maya civilization. Unlike the southern metropolises, which had depended heavily on intensive maize agriculture and dense urban populations, the northern cities, Chichen Itza among the most illustrious, developed an economic and cultural model more suited to their environment. Here, the Maya combined agriculture with trade, tapping into a sophisticated maritime network that connected communities across the peninsula and beyond. Salt, honey, cotton, and obsidian flowed along coastal and river routes, sustaining both population and prestige even as rainfall became less predictable. In this new environment, survival was not solely tied to divine intervention or ritual, but to ingenuity, commerce, and a flexible social structure. The Maya were learning from the failures of the past, adapting not only to the land, but to the challenges of scarcity, climate variability, and social disruption. Chichen Itza became a center of cosmopolitan exchange, its streets alive with artisans, merchants, and scholars. Its monumental architecture, temples, ball courts, and palaces, carried forward the technical mastery and artistic sophistication of the southern cities, but with innovative designs that reflected new priorities and a more outward-looking worldview. The Temple of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent pyramid, exemplified this integration of celestial observation, ritual, and urban planning. The alignment of its steps with the sun during equinoxes was more than spectacle. It was a demonstration of the continuity of knowledge and the harmonization of human activity with the cosmos. Yet unlike the southern cities, which had demanded immense environmental sacrifices to sustain their grandeur, the northern cities relied on clever resource management, seasonal planning, and trade networks that reduced pressure on local ecosystems. In this way, Chichen Itza and its sister cities embodied a lesson in sustainable adaptation, an ability to balance ambition with prudence, creativity with practicality. The northern cities were also places of cultural experimentation. Here, religious practices evolved, blending traditional Maya cosmology with new elements influenced by interactions with Central Mexican cultures. Warriors and priests shared influence, and social structures became more flexible. The ball courts, vast and imposing, were not just arenas for sport, but also stages for ritual, political negotiation, and public engagement. Artisans carved intricate reliefs that told stories of kings, deities, and the human experience, preserving history in a medium accessible to both elite and commoner. Knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and calendrical systems continued to thrive, ensuring that the intellectual legacy of the Maya survived even as the southern cities were reclaimed by the jungle. In this northern flowering, we see a profound truth. The collapse of one system does not signify the end of a people, but often a transformation, a redirection of energy, creativity, and culture into forms better suited to changing circumstances. The enduring resilience of the Maya is perhaps best seen not only in monumental cities, but also in their descendants, who preserved languages, rituals, and agricultural knowledge across centuries. While conquerors, colonization, and modernization brought dramatic change, millions of Maya people today continue to speak one of the 30 surviving languages, maintain complex textile traditions, and practice spiritual rituals rooted in ancient belief systems. Their survival is a living testimony to the strength of culture and community, the continuity of identity even amidst profound disruption. The story of the northern Maya cities reminds us that civilizations are not defined solely by the monuments they build, but by the adaptability, creativity, and resilience of their people. Moreover, this northern resurgence provides a lens through which we can reflect on our own modern challenges. The Maya's experiences with environmental strain, climate variability, and resource management echo contemporary concerns about sustainability, urbanization, and the delicate balance between human ambition and ecological limits. By studying how the Maya adapted, migrated, and transformed in response to crisis, we gain not only historical insight, but also inspiration for confronting the environmental and social challenges of today. Their story encourages a perspective that values foresight, flexibility, and respect for the natural systems that sustain life. Ultimately, the tale of the northern Maya cities is one of hope intertwined with caution. It shows that collapse is not inevitable, but neither is survival guaranteed. It is a narrative that celebrates human ingenuity while reminding us that resilience requires learning, adaptation, and humility before forces beyond our control. The northern cities stand as monuments not only to architectural and artistic achievement, but also to the enduring capacity of a people to endure, to rebuild, and to carry forward the essence of a civilization. In weaving together the southern collapse and the northern resurgence, we see a complete arc of human experience: ambition, brilliance, vulnerability, adaptation, and renewal. The Maya of the North did not erase the memory of the South, rather they transformed it, integrating lessons of environmental limits, social cohesion, and cosmic understanding into a new chapter of their history. This continuity reminds us that civilization is not a static construct, but a living process, one that thrives or falters in dynamic interplay with its environment, its culture, and its people. Even as the great cities of both the southern and northern Maya world faced the relentless pressures of time, climate, and conquest, the people themselves endured. The collapse of monumental centers and the abandonment of sacred pyramids were not the end of the Maya. They were a transformation, a shift from centralized urban power to a decentralized, resilient way of life. Across the highlands and lowlands of present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, Maya communities maintained the lifeblood of their culture. They preserved languages, ceremonies, agricultural knowledge, and storytelling traditions, ensuring that their identity remained unbroken even when the physical symbols of their civilization crumbled. Maya spirituality and ritual, so deeply intertwined with the cycles of maize, rain, and the cosmos, continued to guide communities in subtle but profound ways. Farmers still observed the patterns of the sun, the moon, and Venus to determine planting and harvesting cycles. Families maintained small altars and sacred spaces within their homes, connecting daily life to the rhythms of the universe, honoring ancestors, and seeking guidance in moments of uncertainty. Ceremonies evolved to blend elements of Catholicism, introduced during the Spanish conquest, with pre-Columbian cosmology, creating a living faith that honored the past while accommodating the present. In the act of weaving textiles, tending gardens, or crafting ceremonial objects, Maya people preserved the threads of history, embedding ancestral knowledge into objects, patterns, and everyday life. Each step, each stitch, each seed planted became an act of continuity, a subtle yet powerful testament to endurance. The resilience of the Maya also lies in their adaptability. After the collapse of the southern cities, communities moved away from reliance on large-scale, fragile urban centers to smaller, sustainable villages that harmonized with the landscape. These settlements allowed for flexible responses to environmental variability, reduced the strain on resources, and nurtured a stronger communal life. Children grew up learning the intimate knowledge of their surroundings, which plants healed, which animals sustained, and how to live in balance with the land. In these communities, survival was not a matter of conquest or monumental achievement, but of observation, understanding, and respect for nature's delicate equilibrium. This endurance of culture over centuries offers lessons far beyond history books. The Maya story invites reflection on the fragility of human systems and the importance of resilience in the face of uncertainty. Like the Maya kings, whose power depended on controlling rain through sacred rituals, modern societies are built on the assumption that we can manage the natural world. Yet the past reminds us that even the most sophisticated knowledge, when disconnected from environmental realities, can lead to catastrophe. By observing the Maya, we learn that true sustainability is achieved not through domination, but through adaptation, innovation, and reverence for the forces that sustain life. The narrative of the Maya also touches deeply on human emotion, the universal experience of hope, loss, and renewal. Imagine the families leaving the silent southern cities, the sorrow of abandoning ancestral homes, the uncertainty of stepping into the unknown, and the courage required to rebuild life amidst challenges. Each departure was a story of survival and resilience, yet also of grief and transformation. In the northern cities, we see the courage of those who embraced change, innovated, and forged new paths, transforming adversity into opportunity. Their story resonates because it reflects the human condition, the capacity to endure, adapt, and find meaning even amidst upheaval. Moreover, the Maya teach us the enduring value of knowledge. Their sophisticated mathematics, astronomy, and writing were not mere intellectual achievements. They were expressions of a culture deeply committed to understanding its place in the universe. The rediscovery and decipherment of Maya glyphs by modern scholars opened a window into the rich tapestry of human thought, revealing histories, ambitions, and emotions that had been silent for centuries. Through these efforts, the Maya voice returned, reminding us that no knowledge, no culture is ever truly lost if it is respected, studied, and preserved. The modern Maya people continue this legacy. Across Central America, millions live as direct descendants of the civilization that built pyramids, carved glyphs, and charted the stars with extraordinary precision. They speak one of the surviving Maya languages, practice ceremonies rooted in ancestral belief, and engage in agriculture using techniques refined over millennia. Their endurance is a testament to the power of culture and community, the idea that even when political and urban structures collapse, the essence of a people can survive and flourish. Their lives connect us to a past that is vibrant, alive, and profoundly instructive. The Maya experience also challenges us to consider our own relationship with the environment. The southern cities' collapse, accelerated by deforestation and environmental strain, mirrors modern dilemmas in urban planning, climate change, and resource management. Their story is a reminder that the choices we make today, how we use land, water, and energy, have consequences that may ripple for generations. At the same time, the Maya resilience provides inspiration. By adapting, innovating, and honoring the rhythms of nature, societies can survive and thrive even under severe pressure. Ultimately, the story of the Maya is not simply one of loss, collapse, or mystery. It is a story of transformation, endurance, and human ingenuity. From the silent southern cities to the thriving northern metropolises, from abandoned temples to vibrant communities today, the Maya journey embodies the cycle of challenge and adaptation. It reminds us that while civilizations may fall, the spirit, knowledge, and identity of a people can persist, evolve, and inspire. In reflecting on this journey, one cannot help but feel awe at the courage, creativity, and resilience of the Maya. Their silent cities, now reclaimed by jungle, speak not only of ambition and grandeur, but also of the fragility of human endeavor. Their descendants, thriving in modern communities, speak of survival, adaptability, and the enduring power of culture. Together, these narratives form a profound tapestry, offering both a warning and a source of hope, a reminder that even in the face of catastrophe, human beings are capable of endurance, reinvention, and continuity. The legacy of the Maya is alive in every story they tell, every field they cultivate, every ritual they perform, and every star they observe. It is a legacy that transcends monuments and artifacts, embedded in the living, breathing communities that continue to honor their ancestors while shaping the future. In learning from their history, we are called to reflect on our own responsibilities, to the environment, to each other, and to the generations yet to come. The Maya demonstrate that survival is not only about preserving structures or knowledge, but about maintaining the integrity of culture, community, and spirit in the face of change. The story of the Maya is a mirror that reflects both the fragility and resilience of human civilizations. The collapse of their southern cities offers lessons that remain startlingly relevant today. In an age where global populations face climate change, resource depletion, and social upheaval, the Maya narrative reminds us that no civilization, no matter how brilliant or advanced, is immune to the consequences of environmental mismanagement and overextension. Their story is a cautionary tale, but also a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring capacity of humanity to adapt and survive. Consider the delicate balance that sustained the southern cities for centuries. Their engineers built reservoirs and terraces, their priests tracked celestial cycles with unmatched precision, and their farmers cultivated maize, beans, and squash with meticulous care. Yet as populations swelled and monumental projects accelerated, the fragile ecosystems of the tropical rainforest were pushed to their limits. Trees that had anchored soil for millennia were felled, topsoil eroded into rivers, and water became scarce. When drought struck, the sophisticated systems they had relied upon could no longer compensate. The consequences were devastating. Famine, social unrest, and a cascade of failures that eventually led to the abandonment of once magnificent cities. The emotional resonance of this story lies not only in the scale of the disaster, but in the human choices it forced. Families faced impossible decisions: leave the homes that had defined their lives for generations, or stay and risk starvation. Communities witnessed the unraveling of social, religious, and political structures that had provided order and meaning for centuries. These were not abstract historical events, they were deeply personal, human experiences of loss, fear, and resilience. Imagining a parent carrying their child through a sun-baked jungle in search of a new home, or a young couple leaving behind the pyramid their ancestors had built, evokes empathy and admiration for the courage required to endure such trials. Yet, from this calamity arose a profound lesson in adaptability. The Maya did not vanish. They survived by reimagining their relationship with the land, decentralizing their communities, and maintaining the knowledge, culture, and spirituality that had always guided them. In the northern cities, this adaptability was celebrated. Communities developed robust maritime trade networks, diversified their food sources, and infused their architecture with innovations that reflected new priorities. These cities thrived even as the southern heartland fell silent, demonstrating that resilience is as much about flexibility and ingenuity as it is about endurance. Modern societies can draw inspiration from this. Today, we face challenges that, while different in scale and technology, echo those of the ancient Maya: climate change, deforestation, urban overpopulation, and resource scarcity. Their story reminds us that ignoring environmental limits or assuming that advanced systems will indefinitely absorb shocks is a dangerous gamble. At the same time, it shows that communities that observe, adapt, and innovate, guided by knowledge and a respect for natural cycles, can survive and flourish even under extreme pressure. The Maya offer a blueprint for resilience, rooted not in domination over nature, but in harmony with it. Another critical lesson is the power of knowledge preservation. The Mayas' sophisticated mathematics, astronomy, and writing systems allowed them to understand time, track celestial events, and chronicle their history in unprecedented detail. When these systems were lost to the wider world, the civilizations themselves were misjudged, seen as primitive and mysterious. It took centuries of meticulous scholarship, from Stevens and Catherwood to Yuri Knorosov and Tatiana Proskuryakov, to recover the truth of their achievements. The rediscovery of Maya knowledge underscores a timeless principle. The preservation and dissemination of knowledge is essential for survival, cultural continuity, and the progress of human civilization. It reminds us that intellectual and cultural heritage is a shield against the erasure of history, and that even in the darkest periods, the seeds of revival and understanding remain if carefully nurtured. The emotional lessons of the Maya story extend to leadership and societal values. The divine kingship that once structured southern Maya society was a system built on cosmic promises and religious rituals. When the rains failed, the power of the kings crumbled along with the faith of the people. Today, leaders and communities can learn from this. Authority and influence must be anchored not merely in tradition or power, but in a deep understanding of and responsiveness to the realities of the environment and the needs of the people. Societies thrive when leadership is flexible, ethical, and informed by both knowledge and empathy. Moreover, the Maya collapse teaches the profound importance of foresight and long-term planning. Their sophisticated calendars, long-count timekeeping, and careful agricultural systems were all expressions of a culture that valued observation, prediction, and planning. Yet even these brilliant systems could not fully mitigate the risks posed by environmental overuse and climatic shifts. The lesson is that no matter how advanced our tools and technologies, they are only as effective as the foresight, humility, and ethical responsibility guiding their use. Sustainability is a living practice, requiring constant attention, adaptation, and reverence for the interconnectedness of human and natural systems. Emotionally, the Maya story challenges us to reflect on our own lives and choices. It invites us to consider the legacies we are creating, the systems we depend upon, and the ways we interact with our environment and each other. Their experience evokes empathy, humility, and inspiration. Empathy for those forced to abandon their homes and traditions, humility in the face of nature's power, and inspiration from the enduring spirit of a people who preserved their culture and adapted to survive. It teaches that while civilizations can collapse, culture, knowledge, and human resilience can persist and even thrive in new forms. Finally, the story of the Maya is a celebration of human potential. Despite the collapse of monumental centers, despite centuries of colonization, and despite the pressures of modernity, the Maya people continue to live, speak, create, and inspire. They are the living descendants of a civilization that reached unparalleled heights in science, art, and social organization. Their survival and flourishing demonstrate that humanity's greatest strength lies not only in building monuments, empires, or technologies, but in our ability to endure, adapt, and maintain the essence of who we are, across generations. Through the lens of the Maya, we see that history is not merely a record of events, but a narrative of human resilience, wisdom, and adaptability. It invites reflection on the delicate balance between ambition and sustainability, tradition and innovation, human endeavor and the natural world. Their story resonates with all who contemplate the fragility of our achievements, the impermanence of power, and the enduring capacity of human beings to endure, transform, and thrive. In the end, the collapse of the great Maya cities was not a story of absolute loss. It was a story of transformation, continuity, and hope. The silent cities of the southern lands, once filled with grandeur and life, were reclaimed by the jungle, leaving behind echoes that speak across centuries. These echoes carry lessons of caution, courage, adaptation, and resilience. They remind us that the measure of a civilization is not only in its monuments and artifacts, but in the enduring spirit of its people, the preservation of its knowledge, and its ability to adapt to the ever-changing rhythms of the world. The Maya story is timeless because it mirrors our own potential triumphs and failures. It challenges us to consider our choices, our stewardship of the environment, and our responsibilities to future generations. And yet, it also offers reassurance. As the Maya endured through collapse and adaptation, so too can humanity navigate the crises of today, armed with knowledge, courage, and a profound respect for the intricate balance that sustains life. The rediscovery of the Maya civilization is itself a story that rivals any adventure novel. For centuries, the silent cities lay hidden beneath dense, humid canopies, their stone pyramids and temples swallowed by the relentless jungle. Rumors of colossal stone structures and mysterious idols circulated among local communities, whispered tales dismissed by outsiders as legend or fantasy. Yet the jungle had kept its secrets not out of malice, but out of patience, waiting for those curious and brave enough to seek the truth. In the early 19th century, the world's perception of the Americas was narrow, often dismissive of indigenous civilizations. The prevailing belief was that complex urban centers and monumental architecture were the sole domain of old-world civilizations. Yet, John Lloyd Stevens, a passionate American explorer, and Frederick Catherwood, an extraordinary British architect and artist, challenged that notion. They ventured into territories fraught with natural and political dangers, confronting sweltering heat, impassable terrain, and civil conflicts, driven by the faint hope of uncovering truths long buried. The moment they emerged into a clearing near the Copon River was transformative. Towering stone monuments adorned with intricate carvings of regal figures and abstract glyphs stood as mute witnesses to a sophisticated culture that had flourished centuries before European contact. The skill, artistry, and intellectual depth evident in these monuments astonished them. For Catherwood, every line, curve, and etched detail was a testament to human ingenuity, rivaling anything seen in the grand civilizations of Egypt or Greece. For Stevens, it was the undeniable proof of a complex and independent civilization. The silent cities that had slept for generations now waking to reclaim their story. What followed was painstaking documentation. Catherwood, using innovative techniques, captured each carving with unmatched precision, creating visual records that transcended romanticized imagination and revealed the authentic intellectual and artistic achievements of the Maya. These illustrations, combined with Stevens' vivid narratives, brought the Maya to the consciousness of the world, challenging centuries of misunderstanding and prejudice. Their work ignited a global fascination, opening a window into a civilization that had mastered mathematics, astronomy, writing, and urban planning long before Europeans arrived in the Americas. Yet the rediscovery was not only about monuments and dates, it was about understanding human experience across time. The Maya were more than architects, astronomers, and mathematicians. They were people who loved, struggled, and persevered. Their divine kings, performing rituals of bloodletting to sustain cosmic order, exemplified a society striving to harmonize with forces far beyond their control. Their farmers, artisans, and scribes contributed to a complex ecosystem of knowledge, labor, and culture that sustained millions. In each glyph and structure lies the story of human ambition, creativity, and vulnerability. A story that continues to resonate because it reflects the universal challenges of survival and the pursuit of meaning. Modern audiences, particularly in the 18 to 45 age range, can find profound parallels between the Maya experience and contemporary life. Like the Maya, we grapple with the consequences of environmental exploitation, climate unpredictability, and the relentless pursuit of progress. Their narrative compels us to ask difficult questions. Are our cities and societies built on sustainable practices? Are we aware of the fragility underlying our technological and infrastructural marvels? And perhaps most importantly, can we learn from their resilience to navigate the complexities of our own world? The emotional resonance of the Maya story lies not just in their collapse, but in their response. While the southern cities fell silent, the Maya people endured. They migrated, adapted, and transformed their societies, ensuring the continuity of language, art, religion, and community. This is a testament to human resilience, the ability to adapt in the face of catastrophic change, to retain cultural identity, and to innovate when existing systems fail. For an audience living in a rapidly changing global landscape, this resilience is not merely historical, it is aspirational. It inspires reflection, courage, and action, reminding us that adaptation is both possible and vital. Scientific exploration into the Maya civilization continues to reveal new insights, deepening the emotional and intellectual impact of their story. Paleoclimatology has reconstructed the devastating century-long drought that played a decisive role in the southern collapse, while archaeological research uncovers the intensity of warfare and the ingenuity of agricultural systems designed to sustain dense populations in a challenging environment. Every discovery adds nuance, transforming the Maya from enigmatic figures of the past into multidimensional humans whose struggles and achievements mirror our own challenges and aspirations. Moreover, the rediscovery highlights the transformative power of curiosity, scholarship, and perseverance. The meticulous work of linguists, archaeologists, and illustrators over generations unlocked the voice of a civilization once thought silent. From Yuri Knorosov's phonetic decipherment of the glyphs to Tatiana Proskuriakov's insights into historical biographies, we see how intellectual courage can shatter long-held assumptions, revealing the richness of human history and potential. For viewers today, this is a reminder that curiosity, rigorous inquiry, and persistence can uncover hidden truths, inspire innovation, and reconnect us with lessons from the past. Emotionally, the story invites empathy, wonder, and reflection. We are drawn into the lives of individuals who faced extreme challenges with dignity and ingenuity. We feel the tension of cities caught between environmental collapse and societal unrest, the desperation and hope embedded in daily life, and the courage required to abandon familiar centers of power in search of survival. These narratives resonate because they evoke the full spectrum of human emotion: fear, hope, determination, loss, and triumph, connecting the audience deeply with a civilization separated from us by centuries, yet united in shared human experience. Finally, the rediscovery and enduring legacy of the Maya emphasize the importance of cultural continuity and identity. Despite centuries of conquest and upheaval, more than 7 million Maya people today continue to speak their languages, practice traditions, and maintain spiritual connections to their ancestral lands. The story of the Maya is not merely about loss or collapse, it is about survival, adaptation, and the unbroken thread of culture that links past to present. This is an empowering message for any audience. Even in the face of disruption and adversity, it is possible to preserve what is meaningful, adapt with ingenuity, and continue to thrive. Through the rediscovery of the Maya, the silent cities awaken not just as monuments of stone, but as living narratives that challenge, inspire, and guide us. They teach that civilizations are fragile yet resilient, that knowledge and culture are treasures to safeguard, and that the human spirit is capable of profound adaptation. In the lives of the Maya, we see reflections of our own potential, the consequences of our choices, and the enduring capacity to learn from history. The echo of their cities calls to us, urging mindfulness, courage, and hope as we navigate the uncertain terrain of our modern world. The rediscovery of the Maya civilization is itself a story that rivals any adventure novel. For centuries, the silent cities lay hidden beneath dense, humid canopies, their stone pyramids and temples swallowed by the relentless jungle. Rumors of colossal stone structures and mysterious idols circulated among local communities, whispered tales dismissed by outsiders as legend or fantasy. Yet the jungle had kept its secrets not out of malice, but out of patience, waiting for those curious and brave enough to seek the truth. In the early 19th century, the world's perception of the Americas was narrow, often dismissive of indigenous civilizations. The prevailing belief was that complex urban centers and monumental architecture were the sole domain of Old World civilizations. Yet John Lloyd Stevens, a passionate American explorer, and Frederick Catherwood, an extraordinary British architect and artist, challenged that notion. They ventured into territories fraught with natural and political dangers, confronting sweltering heat, impassable terrain, and civil conflicts, driven by the faint hope of uncovering truths long buried. The moment they emerged into a clearing near the Copan River was transformative. Towering stone monuments adorned with intricate carvings of regal figures and abstract glyphs stood as mute witnesses to a sophisticated culture that had flourished centuries before European contact. The skill, artistry, and intellectual depth evident in these monuments astonished them. For Catherwood, every line, curve, and etched detail was a testament to human ingenuity, rivaling anything seen in the grand civilizations of Egypt or Greece. For Stevens, it was the undeniable proof of a complex and independent civilization. The silent cities that had slept for generations now waking to reclaim their story. What followed was painstaking documentation. Catherwood, using innovative techniques, captured each carving with unmatched precision, creating visual records that transcended romanticized imagination and revealed the authentic intellectual and artistic achievements of the Maya. These illustrations, combined with Stevens' vivid narratives, brought the Maya to the consciousness of the world, challenging centuries of misunderstanding and prejudice. Their work ignited a global fascination, opening a window into a civilization that had mastered mathematics, astronomy, writing, and urban planning long before Europeans arrived in the Americas. Yet the rediscovery was not only about monuments and dates, it was about understanding human experience across time. The Maya were more than architects, astronomers, and mathematicians. They were people who loved, struggled, and persevered. Their divine kings, performing rituals of bloodletting to sustain cosmic order, exemplified a society striving to harmonize with forces far beyond their control. Their farmers, artisans, and scribes contributed to a complex ecosystem of knowledge, labor, and culture that sustained millions. In each glyph and structure lies the story of human ambition, creativity, and vulnerability. A story that continues to resonate because it reflects the universal challenges of survival and the pursuit of meaning. Modern audiences, particularly in the 18 to 45 age range, can find profound parallels between the Maya experience and contemporary life. Like the Maya, we grapple with the consequences of environmental exploitation, climate unpredictability, and the relentless pursuit of progress. Their narrative compels us to ask difficult questions. Are our cities and societies built on sustainable practices? Are we aware of the fragility underlying our technological and infrastructural marvels? And perhaps most importantly, can we learn from their resilience to navigate the complexities of our own world? The emotional resonance of the Maya story lies not just in their collapse, but in their response. While the southern cities fell silent, the Maya people endured. They migrated, adapted, and transformed their societies, ensuring the continuity of language, art, religion, and community. This is a testament to human resilience, the ability to adapt in the face of catastrophic change, to retain cultural identity, and to innovate when existing systems fail. For an audience living in a rapidly changing global landscape, this resilience is not merely historical, it is aspirational. It inspires reflection, courage, and action, reminding us that adaptation is both possible and vital. Scientific exploration into the Maya civilization continues to reveal new insights, deepening the emotional and intellectual impact of their story. Paleoclimatology has reconstructed the devastating century-long drought that played a decisive role in the southern collapse, while archaeological research uncovers the intensity of warfare and the ingenuity of agricultural systems designed to sustain dense populations in a challenging environment. Every discovery adds nuance, transforming the Maya from enigmatic figures of the past into multi-dimensional humans whose struggles and achievements mirror our own challenges and aspirations. Moreover, the rediscovery highlights the transformative power of curiosity, scholarship, and perseverance. The meticulous work of linguists, archaeologists, and illustrators over generations unlocked the voice of a civilization once thought silent. From Yuri Konorosov's phonetic decipherment of the glyphs to Tatiana Proskoriakov's insights into historical biographies, we see how intellectual courage can shatter long-held assumptions, revealing the richness of human history and potential. For viewers today, this is a reminder that curiosity, rigorous inquiry, and persistence can uncover hidden truths, inspire innovation, and reconnect us with lessons from the past. Emotionally, the story invites empathy, wonder, and reflection. We are drawn into the lives of individuals who faced extreme challenges with dignity and ingenuity. We feel the tension of cities caught between environmental collapse and societal unrest, the desperation and hope embedded in daily life, and the courage required to abandon familiar centers of power in search of survival. These narratives resonate because they evoke the full spectrum of human emotion: fear, hope, determination, loss, and triumph, connecting the audience deeply with a civilization separated from us by centuries, yet united in shared human experience. Finally, the rediscovery and enduring legacy of the Maya emphasize the importance of cultural continuity and identity. Despite centuries of conquest and upheaval, more than 7 million Maya people today continue to speak their languages, practice traditions, and maintain spiritual connections to their ancestral lands. The story of the Maya is not merely about loss or collapse. It is about survival, adaptation, and the unbroken thread of culture that links past to present. This is an empowering message for any audience. Even in the face of disruption and adversity, it is possible to preserve what is meaningful, adapt with ingenuity, and continue to thrive. Through the rediscovery of the Maya, the silent cities awaken not just as monuments of stone, but as living narratives that challenge, inspire, and guide us. They teach that civilizations are fragile yet resilient, that knowledge and culture are treasures to safeguard, and that the human spirit is capable of profound adaptation. In the lives of the Maya, we see reflections of our own potential, the consequences of our choices, and the enduring capacity to learn from history. The echo of their cities calls to us, urging mindfulness, courage, and hope as we navigate the uncertain terrain of our modern world.